family, my name is Tiffany and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about the Black voter. If you've watched any of my previous videos, then you know that I talk about how important the Black vote is, especially if you want to win the Democratic primary. It's projected in 2020 that 25% of the votes cast in the Democratic primary will be made by Black voters. If Andrew Yang were to win a large section of that vote, he would win. If you're on Twitter, there's a guy, George, who has had an amazing thread this whole week under the hashtag Blacks for Yang, where he discusses a lot of the issues that the African American community faces, but he also gets into how you can really reach out and secure that African American vote. Now, when you look at the 4 early states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada, they all have African Americans, but all of their cultures are very different. So the best way to galvanize people in each of the states is going to be completely different. Now, South Carolina, we have the best chance. If you watch Nerds for Yang, you know a couple weeks ago he had an interview with Jermaine Johnson, who is the campaign chair for the South Carolina offices. He talks about how in South Carolina the best way to convince someone to vote for your candidate is just to talk for them, because that's the culture of South Carolinians. The reason why I think it's very important for us to focus on South Carolina is because the African American vote is not only essential, the African American vote is loyal. If you are able to galvanize and hold on to that African American vote, we're very loyal voters, especially the African American woman. In the interview, Jermaine says that as much as we have a very extensive and vast population on Twitter, it really doesn't translate on the ground, especially in South Carolina, just because there isn't the same enthusiasm with the internet in South Carolina, especially amongst Black voters, which tends to skew a little bit older, especially if you're looking at the polls. So if you're in South Carolina or you have family in South Carolina, friends in South Carolina, get those people, yang those people, because those people are essential for us to be able to really build up that momentum going into the Super Tuesday states. I personally think that Andrew Yang should win at least 2 of the 4 primary states, and that will put him in a very secure position going into the Super Tuesday states, so he can have a lot of that momentum and he can run away with the Super Tuesday states when we start to vote. As much as it's great for us to be very active on Twitter, our Twitter community is actually very closed off. In the Yang Gang community, you know, there's a lot of love. It feels really great. There's people that are high-fiving you and, you know, telling you that all of your ideas and how you feel about the race is great. But the thing is, that's just in our community. And as much as our community is very vast and it reaches very widely, it is not a majority or even a large percentage of the Twitter community as a whole. And if you want to infiltrate the Black community, I personally think the best way to do that is with Black Twitter or Black Instagram if you're not an avid Twitter user. Here's the thing, Black people make things popular, and I am not being biased just because I'm a Black person. It's straight up facts. When you look at Black Twitter, when there is a communal effort to talk about one issue, it always ends up on trending. And that is because Black Twitter is vast and it reaches a large amount of Black people across all 50 states and across the world as well. But I feel like Black Twitter is a great way to really get Andrew Yang's message out there. I personally only started using Twitter to see more of Andrew Yang, but I personally am on Instagram, and I can tell you on Instagram, I've only seen on the Shade Room, they post about Andrew Yang one time, and it was after the second debates when he did his giveaway. They've only talked about Andrew Yang that one time, and as much as it made me feel great that they were even talking about him, even though it wasn't exactly the most positive of images, it was a great thing because it got the conversation started in the comments, and people who had never heard of him, we were able to introduce them to him, and people that were on the fence, we were able to educate them. And then there's obviously the people that were just stonewall, but at least we sprinkled around some Yang love to start off their journey to being Yang curious. The only thing is, since then, there's literally been nothing about Andrew Yang. When it comes to Black Instagram, I have not seen a single thing posted about Andrew Yang where the Black community as a whole talks about him since the second debate. And that's why this fourth debate, it being in Atlanta, I think it's extremely important that Andrew Yang gets on Black Twitter, Black Instagram. We need to start engaging with the Black community, yes, in person, but also online, because online the Black community is very strong and Black people make things popular. So if we're able to secure the Black vote, it will equal to votes everywhere, because people are going to be like,
wow, okay, Black people think he's cool. Why do they think he's cool?
And once they see why he thinks he's cool, then they're gang. Beyond social media, I think it's really important for us to show a lot of love to Andrew Yang on Black news sites. For instance, The Root is a magazine about Black news, opinion, politics, and culture, and they've actually been having a series going on for the last couple of weeks where they rank the top 10 candidates from the previous week before based on their Black Power ranking. Black Power ranking is based on 4 criteria, which are finances, legislation, external polls, and the X factor. And this week was their 15th week of doing this, and Andrew Yang was in 7th place. I worry about racists, but I think we need to worry more about robots. Andrew Yang, Howard University Law School, October 21st. Between Andrew Yang's statement and Kanye crashing Homecoming, I'm convinced that Howard University has developed a tolerance for political foolishness that even Shepard Smith couldn't manage. Newsflash to Mr. Tech Genius Yang. Robots are racist as hell. Notice how R2-D2 never seems to gravitate to Finn or Lando Calrissian? How the robots in Matrix kill all Black people first? How Vision never shook hands with T'Challa in The Avengers? I rest my case. Yang continues to traffic in problematic assessments on race, made a terrible flip-flop on attending the Second Step Presidential Justice Forum of South Carolina, and was way too eager to defend MAGA mouthpiece Tulsi Gabbard, yet he still moves up this week despite a lot of arguing from the committee. Why? Yang continues to gain in some key Black areas. There will be a universal basic income march in Atlanta this weekend. He got a shout out from NPR reporter Joshua Johnson, and while Yang remains at 1% among Black voters, 13% are considering voting for him, 35% have a positive view for him, and 47% don't know who he is. Which means, according to math, Yang has greater growth potential with Black voters than Beto O'Rourke and Pete Buttigieg. Yang got a little messy this week too, trolling Castro for his lack of money and flexing on the fact that he's all but qualified for the 4th Democratic debate. The committee may not like it or understand it, but Yang is on the move this week. Now, I didn't think that that was the most glowing recommendation of Andrew Yang, but at least they're able to recognize that he's really making some inroads in Black spaces. I see the hesitation on their part when it came to giving him this ranking, even though I think that he's number 1 when it comes to issues with the African American community. I think where Andrew Yang lacks is really being able to feel comfortable enough to express that he understands the cultural and racial divide that happens in America and how it impacts the African American community. I understand that that is not Andrew Yang's campaign because he is running on humanity first, and he really wants to not alienate anyone and have this umbrella effect where he just wants to take everyone that's suffering under his wing and root for them. But coming from someone from the African American community, knowing the amount of struggle and just the systematic, disproportionate holding down of the African American community, it can be kind of hard to see that Andrew Yang is not your regular politician who's just trying to win the black vote and doesn't want to talk about race. He actually wants to help, and even those people that see that he actually wants to help, like the members of this committee, they're obviously able to see that Andrew Yang would be beneficial, but he's never gotten higher than 6th place, and I can tell that it's just because of his lack of confidence when discussing racial issues. I think that maybe Andrew Yang needs to have more African Americans and maybe older African Americans around him just to educate him on the nuances of the African American community. I can definitely say that that is one thing that Bernie Sanders has over Andrew Yang, and that's Nina Turner, because she is such a great advocate for the African American community that when Bernie might not be able to see something, because I mean, Bernie is a white man, he does not know the experiences of an African American, he can turn to an African American and speak to them. Andrew Yang is an Asian man. He does not know the experiences of being black in America. I can definitely tell from Yang's campaign that he is really lacking an infuse of a strong black woman in his campaign, because like I said, the African American woman is the most loyal voter in the Democratic Party. Even though this article, how it was written, may not exactly shine the best of lights on Andrew Yang, at least they're able to acknowledge the fact that he really does want to help. And the help that he is offering will help everyone, but especially the African American community. And I think that's why, even though they may not like the fact that he is not very comfortable talking about racial issues, he still sees the problem and is going to fix the problem. And he is our only hope, really, for America, because Andrew Yang is the type of candidate that you make up in your head, that you're like, this is the person that I want fighting for me. He is literally our greatest hope and dreams embodied into a person. I know that Donald Trump said that he didn't want some random guy joining the race because that's the only person he was worried about, but I think he's not the only one that materialized Andrew Yang. I think we materialized Andrew Yang as well. We have been suffering. We have seen that it doesn't matter. Even the best option in the Democratic Party is not good enough. We need someone that's coming from outside of the party, outside of the scopes, outside of all of it, who is not going to get hunkered down with the BS of DC, but that's going in there to focus solely on fixing the problems. So I want to challenge you. I want to challenge all of us, actually, because I'm challenging myself as well. I think that we need to make every single day a day of action. So every single day in your life, you need to try to make some sort of effort to Yang people. I think it's really important for us to try to reach out to the people in our lives first and foremost, and we should try to do that on a daily basis. But beyond that, we also need to tackle social media. And that means, yes, Twitter, where we're killing it, but like I mentioned before, we need to start trying to infiltrate Black Twitter, Hispanic Twitter, Asian Twitter. Like, we need to start infiltrating the different communities that are not just politically savvy. Like, yes, we need to hit the Bernie camp and the Warren camp. I understand that, and the Pete Buttigieg camp. But we need to hit large scale groups of people, and the politically engaged people, especially the people that are paying attention to the politics right now, already have their person, they already have their candidate. And the people that are doing the polls, if you look at it, majority of them, they are not even really that politically engaged. They just pick a person and they don't really look into information about them, and they're just kind of sticking with that person till time gets closer. And the thing is, if you don't get any likes, if no one comments, that is a perfectly acceptable post. It's completely fine for you to post something and no one likes or comments on it. Because the thing is, just because they don't like or comment it doesn't mean they don't see it. And the whole point of having a day of action every single day is to just bring the awareness of Andrew Yang from the back of their mind to the forefront. As you can see from this article, 47% of African Americans have never even heard of Andrew Yang. So we just need to bring Andrew Yang into the forefront to make him a real viable contender. Because when people think that he's a real viable contender, then they're more likely to vote for him. Because just because somebody likes Andrew Yang doesn't mean they're going to vote for him, because they might think my vote won't count if I vote for him.
So let me not vote for him.
And the thing is, if 1 million people think that, that's 1 million votes that he just lost. So try every day to post something on your Instagram story or your Instagram post, something every day on your social media to reach out and to just casually Yang people or make them Yang curious. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Reddit, anywhere, just try to casually post something, and not just in a Yang forum, not just hashtagging it Yang Gang, because obviously it's going to reach us. I mean, reaching outside of our safe space. The Yang community, we have created this safe space that's full of love and full of support that gives us all nice and warm, gushy feelings, but we need to take a step outside of it. We can still have our safe space. We have it. It's there. No one's saying to destroy it or get rid of it. It's there. But we need to take a step outside of those safe places. And once we get outside of those safe places, we need to start trying to Yang people. And when we Yang people, we need to not Yang people with the intention of making them Yang Gang. Yang people with the intention of just making them Yang curious. Because if you remember when you were Yang curious, you started doing what? Looking up long form interviews, looking up his podcast that he's done. And that was the best way that eventually made you Yang Gang. It takes a lot for someone to be so committed that they decide to stop their life, get on the internet, get on YouTube, get on Google, and look something up. So we need to do our part to bring his awareness higher so that people can be Yang curious, and in their Yang curiosity, look him up and Yang Gang themselves. We need to get people Yang curious, because the jump from Yang curious to Yang Gang is significantly shorter than the jump from nothing to Yang curious. Because it's a lot easier to get people who already know you to like you than to get people who know nothing about you to know you. Because people just, that's just how we are. That's just how we work. Natural way that we have. It just happens to go. So guys, if you have any suggestions on how you think would be the best way to Yang people on a daily basis, please comment below. Let's share our information so that we can be able to take that information and go outside of our bubble and continue to spread Yang's message. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you. If you liked it, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you want to see the next time that I post, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified the next time that I post. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.